Well, let's just continue our focus on this national conference debate. Odelim Imegbara joins us, the development economist from our Abuja studios. Morning, and thank you for joining us. Well, you did have some, you think this can be approached differently from what the other perspective that has come forth. What might that be, if you tell us?
I didn't hear the question. Please, could
you suggest that the national conference debates could be approached differently from what a lot of people have actually suggested. Is that correct?
I think it's possible that that national conference should be subjected to a process of referendum. But also, I would like a case National Assembly is involved for the legitimacy of the national conference.
You think without their involvement, it will not be legitimate?
I'm not saying that it will not be legitimate, but it is the National Assembly that will actually come up with a resolution that will guide the process of the national conference. And of course, whether there will be referendum or not, they will pass it into law before the president will sign it into law.
As a development economist, does this or will this have any bearing whatsoever on the performance of the economy?
As far as I'm concerned with this national conference, first of all, let me make it clear to Nigerians that it is not fair that we are going to be operating with an imposed constitution by a military government that we never elected. So after about 14 years of running a military imposed constitution, isn't it fair that the people of Nigeria come up with their own constitution? The one day we say we, the people of Nigeria, have discussed and agreed that this will be the constitution that will guide all of us in this country. So now, having said that, let me look at the economic issues, because these are the areas that I'm interested. First of all, the constitution as it is not fair, it lacks what we all call fiscal federalism. It creates an avenue for states to depend on allocation from the federal government. Also, local governments depend on allocation from federal government. And as a result, the states, local governments, and even the federal government does not engage in internally generated revenue for their upkeeps. So I think that let us go to this national conference and make it compulsory that the current expenditure should be based on internally generated revenue, whereas capital expenditure will be based on federal allocation, which I don't even want federal government to allocate money and hand the money to the states and local government. That will be a national council for award of contracts and for assessing projects, so that they will take away the awarding of contracts from states, federal, and the local governments, so that Nigeria will be less corrupt, and our processes of conducting project awards and things like that will be more efficient and more transparent.
How realistic will that be? Because, I mean, what if states cannot realistically meet up with the recurrent expenditure, and then the funds they have for capital expenditure, they could easily just channel them for recurrent purposes?
You said?
If you say that certain funds should be for recurrent expenditure, and then states cannot meet up with that, and then they can easily just take the funds meant for capital expenditure and pay salaries.
No, that is what I'm trying to say. I'm saying that locally internal generated revenues will be for recurrent, and the allocations will no longer go as allocation. It's going to be federal government council that will be set up, that will be managing the expenditure, in the sense that the states will come up with their capital projects every year. The council will debate and look at the viability of these projects, and then sit and award the contracts directly and supervise the contracts. In this way, states will no longer have direct access to the fund that come from the federal government. And of course, if the states are unable to pay their salaries, over a period of time, the states must be asked to merge with other states.
I don't know what direction you're thinking. I mean, you're a development economist, or is it, I don't know, I'm trying to get your designation correctly. Development economist. What in your mind are you thinking? Because a host of people are saying that we have to discuss the money. The money part of our federation must be discussed. What model would you prescribe for a federation? I mean, a host of people say a federation generally, the federating unit is supposed to contribute to the center, not the other way around. I mean, not that everything goes to the center and the center begins to share the other, share to the state and the local government. What model would you prescribe, if you were to take part in a national dialogue?
First of all, this question has not been raised, so I was wondering why you came up with the question you came up. Anyway, I think that at the end of the day, if you look at models that have been used by most countries, those countries that have federal system and the fiscal federalism, it means that each state that has resources should control its resources and contribute to the center. But in our own case, I don't think it's visible and possible now. So what I'm suggesting is that will be a mechanism that will encourage states to look inwardly through internally generated revenue. And now, any state that generates beyond, outside its ability to generate, not through natural resources, could just pay salaries and use that money. Now, states that are generating through resources should at least control not less than 50% of their resources. It's unfortunate, but it might be very unbelievable, but that should be the truth. I believe that states that produce oil must be given up to 50% of that oil, and the 50% remaining will come to the federal government, and then it's shared according to the allocation system we operate. Maybe federal government takes 40, states take 30, states take 60, but taking 60 does not mean that it's the money they are going to spend for the upkeep. That is for recurrent. It's the money that will be used for projects and for investments in the states.
Mr. Ewegbara, you said the question hasn't been raised. Has it been raised on this program, or has it been raised as an agenda for the conference? Where exactly are you referring to?
Which program? You said program? Sorry,
when you were answering the question, you said the question hasn't been raised. I was just wondering in what quarters you were referring to.
No, I mean that you didn't raise it earlier before you start asking me whether I'm a development economist or whatever. That's what I'm trying to say. The first question I was asked by Suleiman was to look at reconfirming the way states could be run should the states not be able to pay salaries. So when you now said the issue of allocation, whether the center should control the money, I said that you have never asked that question earlier. That's what I was saying.
Okay, I have been following some of the arguments lately, and one of such you have raised is on ethnic nationalities. For you, you have a very strong point on the existence of, in your words, you call them kingdoms, and you wanted them to go to our museums. I don't understand that. Perhaps you should expatiate more.
Okay, Suleiman, it's only countries like Nigeria that runs a republic and still have emirates, kingdoms, and monarchs. Because what is the essence of republic? Republic means there won't be sovereign entities other than the people of the nation that comprise the nation. So I'm trying to say that it's an aberration to have emirates, have kingdoms, and have monarchs existing alongside a republic. We must send them to the museums so that our children and grandchildren will go and know that once a time the country has kings, has emirs, has monarchs, so that a modern society will be in place. Because whether you like it or not, most of these emirates, most of these kingdoms and monarchs are so parochial that they are actually creating the ethnic and the religious conflict